Hey everybody, Dr. Dennis Ciccone from Ciccone Family Chiropractic and Wellness Center. I'm so excited you're here tonight for our thyroid and adrenal fatigue webinar. This is a webinar I have done hundreds of times and we've had some really great results. So I'm excited to share some content with you. Hopefully a lot of it is giving you a different approach to move forward with your thyroid health, get some information from it. So often we would do these webinars and then people would say, okay, that's a lot of great information. Now, what do we do? So I want you to know at the end of this webinar, because it's very difficult to answer everybody's questions here, we are going to gift you with a free 10-minute strategy call with our program director. Her and I have created this program together. She'll be able to answer any other questions you have. In addition to that, feel free to interact, ask questions. Dorian will be in the chat. He'll be answering questions tonight. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask those questions. Be interactive and engaged as possible. That will get you the most information. And be ready to take some notes. We're going to cover a lot of content. So let's get right on into it. Thyroid and adrenal issues are probably the second or third most common reason that people reach out to our practice. The first one most likely being inflammation, and the second one being weight loss issues. So this is a very big topic that comes into our practice. And what I want you to know right off the front is that um, thyroid issues are never a primary issue unless your thyroid has been removed or destroyed. So we're going to talk about trying to diagnose exactly what's going on so that you can get these answers handled with another practitioner or with ourselves and just get some answers to understand your overall health better. In our office, we have what we call our four-way phases approach to help get patients well. So if you have not seen our stress hormone to inflammation webinar, go to our website and watch that. It's going to be a more basic talk than this one. It's going to give a lot of information about how we approach health. But basically, the idea is we use testing. We don't guess in our office. We're going to use testing to figure out exactly what's going on so that we can actually get to the root, figure out what's going on, and then solve those issues. We're not into giving you a supplement for long term either. We want to figure out what's there, fix it, and then get off of it. Our approach is we have two things to do. We have to remove what's causing the issue, and then we have to fix the problem that's there. If we've done both of these things, when we retest, long term, you shouldn't need to be on these supplements on an ongoing basis. We want to create an individualized plan with you. So there's no cookie cutter methods in our program. Everybody's different. If you have tried other approaches and struggled with it, this approach may be for you because we're going to use specific testing. Nobody that goes through our program ever has the same exact program. So again, it's going to be specific to you. That's what gives us such great results. And our support also. We are here for you to help you get results. If you have questions in between patients, you are not a number to us. When you become part of our practice, we partner with you to help you get the best results possible. So you can give us a call, you can email us. If we can answer those quickly, we'll do that through email. We have a tremendous support team here. If for whatever reason we need additional support, you and I will get on. We'll be able to answer those questions and figure out what the next steps are. We're going to hold you accountable. At the beginning of your program, we're going to develop what you are trying to achieve and what those health goals are. And we're going to make sure that we're moving towards those goals. It helps keep you accountable. It also helps keep us accountable, make sure that we're moving towards things that are important to you and what we're trying to achieve with your health. So that's very important. And then we're going to empower you. As I said in the beginning, I don't want you to rely on me or supplementation long term. I want you to use us as a service to be able to support you, but I want to educate you. I want you to be able to learn how to do this for you and your family so that you're relying on us less and less as you go through the program. So you can get more of this information in our approach through looking at our other webinar at the website, as I talked about, stress hormones and inflammation. So let's get right on into the thyroid talk tonight. Let's talk about some thyroid hormones. You'll see that there's TRH on here, TSH, T4, and T3. Most of you will be familiar if you've been working with thyroid issues with TSH, T3, and T4. These are the most common markers that your endocrinologist is going to test or your primary care that has prescribed to you any medication like Synthroid or levothyroxine. TSH is actually a brain hormone that is made by the pituitary. It tells your thyroid, produce thyroid. So if you see TSH numbers high, that indicates to the medical doctor or a practitioner like myself that the thyroid gland is not producing enough thyroid hormone. And what's happening is the brain is yelling to it, produce more, produce more. There's several reasons that this is happening, and we'll talk about each of those four reasons in a minute. But basically, I want you to get the idea of what's happening. So the brain will send the signal to the thyroid. The thyroid will then produce T4, which is thyroid hormone in its inactive form. It will then need to be sent to the liver to be converted to T3, which is its active form. So again, think about that as we go through this process. The brain has to send the signal. The thyroid then has to produce T4, and then the liver has to convert that T4 to T3 to allow all of this to happen. And this feedback loop is constantly happening between the brain, the thyroid, and the liver, so that the body is constantly regulating these thyroid hormones, so that your body can do this effectively. There's four things that I want you to ask yourself, your practitioner, or myself as we go through a process like this. Where is the breakdown and why isn't this working properly? Because if you're not feeling well and it's a result of the thyroid and your labs are off, or one or two, because sometimes your labs will be great and you'll feel like junk. Actually, give me a yes in the chat if you are a patient who your doctor measures your T3, T4, and TSH. Um, the numbers keep coming back as good. They're managing the numbers properly, but you still don't feel so great. Give me a yes in the chat if that's you. Now, the four things we want to go through today is this a production issue? Is it that you're having a problem making it? Is it a conversion issue? Are you having trouble converting it from T4 to T3? Is it a destruction issue? Are there immune system issues that are causing damage to your actual thyroid so that it can't produce? Or is there an interference issue? Interference would be anything that would be blocking normal function of the thyroid or any parts of the production we talked about. So the first key is if there's a thyroid issue or you're having symptoms of thyroid, you have to identify which one, two, three, or four of these are going on, because many of my patients have multiple ones going on, and then start to address it from that standpoint. So things that you want to think about. If the issue is building up thyroid, so you don't have enough production is your issue, you're not making enough T4. Things that you want to look at are things like tyrosine, iodine, selenium, zinc, iron, vitamin B, C, D, and E. I want you to think about these thyroid hormones like Legos. If you don't have all the pieces, you're not going to be able to make the Lego. So production it's very important that you're getting the building blocks necessary. Otherwise, your body's not going to be able to make the thyroid hormone. The other thing, which we'll talk about later in the presentation, is it's really important that your gut is healthy also. Because if your gut is not absorbing properly, you could even be having good, high quality supplementation or getting some of these things in your food. And if your body's not absorbing it, then you're not getting the benefit or what you need from that food. And you're basically just wasting the money on the supplementation or high quality food because that absorption isn't there and the body's not able to use it. Here's a little tip when it comes to production is if you are a patient that your labs were off, you went onto a medication, whether it's Synthroid or levothyroxine, and you started to feel really good after doing that, numbers started to stabilize and it made a really big difference for you, then production is usually the number one thing that would likely be the cause, because that medication is basically a synthetic form of making that hormone. The challenge with that is it doesn't actually fix the problem, in that there's a reason your body's not making those things. And if we can get to the root of it, then you're not going to need to rely on that medication long term. On the other hand, if you are a patient that had thyroid numbers off, took the medication, and then didn't feel a lot better, typically it's more of a conversion issue, because that means your body's making enough, but it's not able to convert it to its active form in the liver. So again, these are just things to start getting an idea of where we want to focus when we do testing, when we start to build these things back in the right direction. When we talk about conversion, which is that second one, which occurs in the liver, things I want you to think about are things like B1 deficiency, estrogens, or toxicity. If the liver's not working properly, if you have high estrogens, if your B1 is deficient, then your body's not going to be able to do these normal conversions from T4 to T3, and you're going to get a backup in that system because the liver is not able to handle it. Now, factors that inhibit proper production of thyroid hormones are things like stress. Anybody ever have stress? Give me a yes in the chat if you've ever been stressed. Things like infections, medications, again, toxicities, halogens. We'll talk a little bit about more those later. Heavy metals, leaky gut, vitamins and mineral deficiency. Your gut, if it's working properly, you should be having 2 to 3 bowel movements a day. You should not feel bloated after eating food. You shouldn't feel swollen after eating certain foods. These are just some ideas of, again, absorption, production, or things that can inhibit this proper production. And then things that support normal conversion of T4 to T3 are things like zinc and selenium and proper liver function. So, doing a proper liver detox, working with your doctor. So many people contact me that even have heard this information before, and then they'll contact a practitioner and they'll do a liver detox. But the problem is they never heal the gut first. And then what happens is they go through the detox process, and then those toxins actually go into their gut, and they actually end up doing more damage than good. So even though they're doing the right things, they're doing them out of order. It would be like painting a wall before sanding it and then sanding it after. It doesn't mean that it's wrong or the products are wrong. It's just going out of order. You're not going to get the right results. So when you work with us and our team, what we do is we actually develop the entire process to get this fixed in the right order. So you're spending the least amount of energy, money, and time to get the result that you're looking for, so that these things are actually fixed. When we talk about production again, we have to get tyrosine into the body. So tyrosine is what the T stands for in T4 and T3. And then the I, or the 3, stands for the iodine molecules, whether there's 4 or 3. And we'll talk about sources of that on the next slide. But what I want you to see with the tyrosine is it comes from turkey, chicken, fish, peanuts, almonds, avocado, bananas, milk, cheese, yogurt, cottage cheese, lima beans, pumpkin seeds, and sesame seeds. So these are just some foods that you can start incorporating into your health plan or into your nutrition if you're not getting a lot of these and you're thinking that production is part of the issue. Again, it's important to make sure that the gut is functioning properly, so that these things can be absorbed. The other thing that we would look at with you is we would actually do a food allergy and sensitivity test with you. And that would let us know not only, which ones are the best forms to get tyrosine for you, but which ones are specifically for you that aren't going to create other interference or inflammation in the body. So we might look at this list now and be able to say, all right, I want you to do all of these sources of tyrosine, but remove these 3 or 4, because we know that it's creating an immune system issue that's also stressing the thyroid if you're actually eating that food. So sometimes it's the weirdest things, like an avocado or broccoli or an almond or something like that, that is creating some of the issues that are causing the stresses to the body. So that food test becomes really helpful in mapping out a good, strong, long term plan that gets success with our clients. The other thing we talked about is the iodine deficiency. So if you can't make thyroid if you don't have iodine and you don't have tyrosine. You need to get tyrosine from your food. And then if your iodine is low, that's when a patient's going to present with a goiter. So if you've ever had that growth or a goiter in the thyroid, that typically indicates again a production issue, and it indicates that there's an iodine deficiency. So you want to look at things like cod, shrimp, scallops, sea bass, haddock, perch, sea salt, kelp. Kelp is the most common sea vegetable to get the best results when it comes to iodine. And then there's things like cranberries, strawberries, eggs, turkey, and prunes. Again, if you have a food test, you can then look at that test and then map this out and say, okay, these are going to be the most beneficial foods to get the results that I'm looking for. Now, we talked about production, we talked about conversion. The next thing I want to talk about is destruction. So, when we talk about destruction, the biggest thing that we see causing these issues are autoimmune disease. Now, this would be things like specifically for the thyroid, Hashimoto's or Graves. And we have tremendous success with these patients. Um, because once we start to decrease the immune system trigger, these things start to improve. So I've actually had patients that have been diagnosed with the antibodies for um, Graves and Hashimoto's. Both examples go through this process, work with me, and because we were able to get rid of the triggers, actually went back to their MD, and their MD has removed the diagnosis completely. Now that's really exciting because for some of you that have Hashimoto's or Graves, you know that your medical doctor will say this is a lifelong problem that can't be resolved. And the fact that we were able to get rid of those triggers and have that diagnosis removed is very exciting for those patients as well as me as a practitioner, because it lets us know that there's hope. And if we do the right things, we're able to get our body to a healing position. As a chiropractor and a practitioner that's partnering with you on health, I want you to know that I can never tell you or recommend to you to come off of a medication. So if that's part of your plan, you and I, our goal would be to get you as healthy as possible. And then you would have those discussions with your primary care doctor, your endocrinologist, or a pharmacist so that you could make the right decisions for you in regards to medications moving forward. Now, I believe it's the third or the fourth leading cause of death in females between the ages of 24, autoimmune conditions. And I would tell you that number seems to be getting bigger and bigger as a practitioner. I've been practicing over 16 years. I've helped thousands of patients go through these types of programs. And I would tell you that more than half the patients I talk to now tell me that they have some sort of autoimmune component. So when I'm talking to clients, it never used to be that high. So this number is going higher and higher and higher. And I don't know if that's from increased vaccination use, increased medications, increased toxicity in the air and the water. But whatever it is, the body is responding more from an immune system standpoint, and it's hyperactive and causing these issues into the body. If what we've said so far is exciting to you, if you are thinking, "Hey, these are some answers that I haven't heard before. I wanna get some, extra information for this." Again, uh, schedule the strategy call. It's 10 minutes, it's free. We will go through information with you, answer questions directly. Again, I can't answer everybody's questions in the comments. I know Dorian is doing his best to answer those as well, but this is one-on-one time. And the reason that we set this up is because once we went to a webinar format, it was impossible to be able to address everybody's issues. So this allows us to get out the content to large groups of people. We talk to hundreds and hundreds of people every month through these webinars, but this extra 10 minutes is your time to be able to ask those specific questions, and then for us and you to see whether this would be a good fit. So schedule that strategy call, just click the link, get registered, and my team is excited to talk to you. The program director, as I said, is great. Her and I created this program together, and she'll be able to answer any questions you have. Now, this lab's a little harder to see, but the purpose of the lab serves why I put it in this webinar. So if I were to show my children this lab, they would know that there's problems with it, right? Everything is high in red. They're all the markers are flagged. We know that there's a serious problem with this. The reason I show this lab first is many times um, patients will come into me and they'll say, my doctor says all my labs are normal. I don't know what to do. When the labs come back like this, there is no practitioner in the world that would tell anybody, hey, it's normal, don't know what to do. So there's always something that can be done, and you're going to have support from your medical doctor as well as us if the lab comes back like this. The place where it gets really challenging with the patient is when a lab comes back like this. And the reason I say that is typically your medical doctor is going to measure your TSH number, which is the one that is affected directly and they use for monitoring your thyroid medications. So, again, some practitioners will only measure TSH and they'll use that as the monitor of how to change your medications for the rest of your life. That is the goal. Now, other practitioners will also look at T3 and T4 to see how those are being affected, but they are not things that, other than the Synthroid and the levothyroxine, they have a lot of medication to manage. So some don't even look at that. The other thing that is important to look at, especially if destruction or an autoimmune component is at play, are these thyroid peroxidase antibodies and the thyroglobulin antibodies. Now, the reason this lab is so interesting is if you had a primary care doctor or an endocrinologist that was not suspecting Graves or Hashimoto's and then just ran your thyroid panel, you can see from this lab everything would come back looking normal. They would say everything's fine, don't worry about it. Or even if you were on medications and it was stabilized, they would say you're all set, nothing needs to be done here. What I would say to you is if they didn't measure these and then they did get these results, you can see those antibodies are 82 where they should be under 35 and then over 1,500 and they should be under 115. Now, these were results of a patient of mine in the practice that was struggling with health and she was at risk of cancer because she had these autoimmune components going on, attacking what's going on in the thyroid. And then creating all of these issues. She was feeling horrible, but every time she went to the doctor, they said everything looked fine. What I want you to know too, when you look at this, is lots of times when people say there's autoimmune, what their next thing they'll say is that what it is my body's actually attacking itself. And the reality is your immune system is so smart, it doesn't attack itself. It's much smarter than that. So what is actually happening in this situation is there's an infection or something in the thyroid, like Epstein-Barr, or herpes simplex or something like that that got into the thyroid tissue. And then when your immune system is looking around, it actually notices that there's something that's not supposed to be there, goes in, kills it, and then when it does it, there's collateral damage to the thyroid. So again, your immune system is doing the right thing. There's just some side effects associated with it. Now, in regards to interference, we want to look at things like nutrition, stress, fluoride, bromine. These are the halogens I was talking about, chlorine, food allergies, viral loads, mold, GI issues, immune system. If all these other areas aren't being managed appropriately, then there's going to continue to be breakdown, even if you're looking at those other triggers like production, conversion, and destruction. So you got to look at all of these factors. You got to rule out each one of them. Again, most of you, there'll be one or two at play. Some of you, there'll be three or four. Now we talk about iodines and why or these halogens and why it affects iodine so much. If you look down this category, you see the fluoride, the chlorine, and the bromine. These are all in the same category as iodine. So they compete for the site. So if you have high levels of fluoride, chlorine, or bromine, what's going to happen is they're going to attach to those molecules where the iodine is supposed to, and then you're just going to have trouble converting and having proper, again, thyroid function. The thing I want you to think about in regards to that is chlorine is in a lot of water sources. Fluoride, the biggest place that we see it is in toothpaste. Sometimes it's in water as well. And then bromine is in a lot of bread products. So that's where it's become very high, and bromine becomes one of the main factors that we see thyroid issues going on with patients when it's these halogens that are fighting with the iodine molecules. This lab right here is a follow-up lab that we did with that patient that had the high thyroglobulin antibodies and the thyroid peroxidase antibodies. So she had both Epstein-Barr virus that was active as well as a herpes virus. So again, there's a lot of blood supply to the thyroid. So these viruses will catch on there. They get what they need, they hang out there, and then they create lots of issues there. Again, the immune system wasn't doing the wrong thing in that case. It was doing the right thing. But until we were able to get rid of those infections, decrease that viral load, and do the healing, this patient was never going to have normal symptomatology, even if her thyroid numbers were functioning properly. Now, opposite the thyroid is the adrenal gland. And why I say that is the thyroid and the adrenal gland, they work opposite to regulate heart function. So it becomes very important that these are not being manipulated and they're working optimally. Now, this is a patient that came into the office. We measured her hormones, and you can see the patient values are very low here. So this patient is the type of patient that has adrenal insufficiency. She's going to be tired most of the day. She's going to wake tired. She's not going to sleep well. She's not going to stay asleep. She's going to have no energy throughout the day. The other pattern we'll see when the adrenal glands are off is what we call the wired but tired. So these are the patients that have a lot of energy, but they seem to not be able to do too much. So I think about it like if I grab a rat's tail, the first thing it's going to do is fight. It's going to have that energy to it. If that happens long enough, they're going to start to feel tired and then eventually just stop fighting completely. So we can actually measure how stress is affecting your health and how this is decreasing, affecting the adrenal glands, and then indirectly affecting the thyroid so that we can manage these and get these back to normal. Remember, with everything I'm telling you, there's two parts that are necessary, and I talk a lot about this in that stress hormones and inflammation webinar. One, you have to fix the problem. Okay, you have to remove the stressor. And two, you have to fix the damage that's created. So if you only remove the stressor but don't fix the damage, then you're going to continue to have more problems. You're just going to be continuing to cycle through the same thing, or the symptoms are going to come back. And if you do the other thing, if you keep creating the problem but you fix it, you're just going to continue to create the problem too. So you need to, one, identify and remove the trigger. Two, fix the damage associated with that trigger. Once you do both of those things, your body will be healing and functioning properly. Now, many patients that come in to see me that have thyroid issues are on levothyroxine or Synthroid. And the first question I will ask them as we're going through care is, have you ever had your adrenal glands checked? Because again, we just talked about they work opposite the heart and opposite the thyroid to regulate heart function. So if I look at a patient that has had adrenal gland issues or thyroid issues, once the other one of those also gets involved, the next thing will be heart issues. In fact, some of you on here right now have thyroid issues. You've been on thyroid medication and now you're having heart issues. And nobody has ever even looked at or addressed your adrenal issues. I would encourage you to get on a call with us real quick, because that means that this has been going on even longer uncontrolled. Now, I put this on here. This is actually from the synthroid.com website. And you'll see this second line here as a safety information says, do not use Synthroid if you have uncorrected adrenal problems. So again, they know this, but again, out of, I would say 100 patients that I talk to, maybe 90 of them have never had their medical doctor look at their adrenal glands. 10 doctors are great. They're doing what they should do. They're looking at these protocols, but I don't think this is standard of practice. I just think those medical doctors are doing above and beyond what they need to do. So It's important to measure the adrenal glands if you are on Synthroid. It's even more important, like I said, if you're on heart medications, if you have history of stroke, heart disease, those other types of things, get the adrenal glands checked. You can give us a call to work through that. The other test we do with patients is we look at these allergy responses. We're going to actually take your blood. We're going to put that in the presence of certain foods and then see how your immune system reacts. So if your immune system is highly reactive and you already have an autoimmune condition, what does that do? It puts the immune system into hyperdrive. So we need to make sure we're decreasing the immune system stressors, make sure that it's functioning optimally. The way that we do that is, again, not just giving you those foods that are going to help with production, but making sure those foods that we give you aren't also stimulating the immune system and creating these stressors. And these tests give us those answers to be able to do. The other thing is leaky gut. Another test we'll look at in the office is if there's damage to the gut. I would argue that 90% of my patients, when I measure them, they either have some absorption issues, some infections in the gut, or their good bacteria is not functioning properly. So they're already having immune system issues, they're already having absorption issues, and now it's showing up in the thyroid. So again, we need to heal the gut. We need to make sure absorption is functioning properly. If you're not having 1 to 2 normal bowel movements a day on a regular basis, if you're bloated, if you get gastric reflux, um, all of these things, pain or discomfort into the gut after eating, these are all signs that something is going on with the gut that's not functioning normally. And we can address these again with testing and a proper plan in the office. Gluten. This is another one that's really important. So for any of you that are dealing with thyroid issues, especially the ones that on here have been diagnosed with Hashimoto's or Graves', it is imperative that you stop eating gluten immediately. You want to remove this as quickly as possible. And the reason is there's a phenomenon called molecular mimicry. And what that means is when you eat gluten, gluten actually mimics thyroid tissue. What I mean by that is when it's absorbed into the digestive tract, the body will actually use it to build thyroid tissue. So just like I said with Epstein-Barr virus or the herpes virus, this gluten will now be in the thyroid tissue. The immune system will see it, and then it will start to go and start to attack it, just like it did with the viruses that we talked about. So, hey, everybody, I'm so glad you are here tonight. I hope you learned a lot. Give me a yes, this was helpful. I learned something new, something like that in the chat. It's always encouraging to me and my team so we can give out good content and add to this information. And I just want you to know our approach is we give you the process. We look at testing. The testing gives us direction. We map out a customized individual plan. We have consults. That's where you get the answers and the support. We use chiropractic care, supplements, herbs, and lifestyle recommendations to get you results. You're the one that determines the speed of healing. So at the end of the day, I'm going to give you things to do. You're going to follow them. The better you follow them, the less it costs, the less time it takes, the less energy it takes because you're getting results. And the labs show us exactly what to do. For anybody on here that is distant to us, obviously, we're not going to do your chiropractic care. I will find a chiropractor near you if that's something that's necessary. Let's get on the phone. Let's start mapping out a plan. We have great success. I've been taking care of people all over the country for several years now, and we have a great model to be able to serve you. So again, thanks so much for being here. Make sure to schedule that strategy call. We look forward to talking to you, setting up that strategy call with our program director. And then I will tell you this, you will be given an opportunity at the end of that call, if you are a good fit and you feel like we're a good fit, for only $99 to schedule a 45-minute call with me. I will review your lab work. I will map out a plan with you. I will tell you exactly what I believe is going on, whether it's production, conversion, interference, or destruction. I'll tell you exactly where those problems are, what it looks like. I will map out a 6 to 12-month plan to help you get these things corrected once and for all. And I will even tell you what I believe a projection for what the cost will be. Again, you'll get all of that for $99 if you're a good fit and you want to move forward with that. So that will be my special to you. Depending on how much lab work there is and how much work that goes into that, that's about a $600 to $800 value. So take advantage of that if you've been struggling. I will tell you, I talk to patients all the time that reach out to doctors, are looking for help, and they haven't really been listened to. I will be very present with you. I will answer these questions for you. It'll be the best investment you make. Again, if you're a good fit, I look forward to talking to you soon. So have a wonderful day. We'll talk soon. The last thing I will tell you is if you do schedule a strategy call, please just show up. I know it's free for you, but it's not free for me and my team. We only have so much time. We only have so many spaces. Again, we do this for hundreds of people. Please just show up prepared to the call. My team will do the same. If you don't, you're taking time away from us and making it more difficult to us to do this as a free service. And two, you're taking the spot from somebody that may need it. So if you schedule, just show up prepared. We're excited to talk to you. Have an awesome day.